So here's who we have on the agenda today. Taren from Student Services, Nick, Juelsgaard. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and sort of their own backgrounds. We also have another Nick. You go by Nick too, right?
Yeah.
And Jesse Leonard, and Eric Woestman. In our second session, we have John Granis, Veronica, and Venkatesh. Am I pronouncing it close enough?
Yep.
He's actually Jesse's boss, so that's why we have a nice combination of a student and a boss. So anyway, some of the questions we were sort of hoping to address at some point. These were just generic, or these were just questions we came up with. If I've studied only a year or two, what jobs are available to me? What's the best way to present my experience in a cover letter, CV? What professional skills have I learned or am I prepared to learn on the job with my degree in world languages and cultures? Where do I go to search for jobs that have my skill set, i.e. international experience? Do you feel that longer experience abroad or multiple experiences abroad make one a better candidate than a short study abroad tour? What is more valuable, an internship or a study abroad program? And finally, last but not least, what are employers expecting from their employees or job applicants with a foreign language degree or experience in this area? So these are just general questions. Let me just, I'll invite our panelists to come up, maybe our first set. And you can tell us a little bit about yourselves. I'll turn the projector off so you don't blind yourselves. And yeah, thanks again for coming out. So, yeah, feel free to remember look some up. Start and just kind of tell us a little bit about your experience.
Okay. My name is Jesse Leonard. I'm a senior in mechanical engineering and German LCP at Iowa State, and I work part-time for Thermomass located in Boone, Iowa, and then also for Danfoss Power Solutions, which is located here in Queens.
My name is Nick Juelsgaard. I also work at Danfoss. I'm a junior in electrical engineering. I work full-time at Danfoss and I'm coming back part-time. So I've been through here once. I graduated with a theater degree and a Chinese minor, and I've been to China. So.
I'm Eric Woestman. I'm a senior in software engineering and German LCP. I work at NSoft Corp, a software company in Research Park.
I'm Taren. I'm the Director of Career Services in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, so I frequently work with world languages and culture students and employers.
And I'm Nick Korpi. I'm still a student here, but I've worked for a company called Moscow Lighting, and I'm a linguistic student. I have a minor in Chinese and a minor in Spanish. Been to China twice. I don't know if there's anything else exciting about it.
All right, so maybe I'll just kind of play moderator here. With our first question, I've studied a year or two. What jobs are available to me? Anybody want to speak to this?
I'll speak to the idea of the jobs that are available that are outside the actual description of using your language as your job. I do engineering work. I don't do language work, but I do use my language for that. For my engineering. I do cultural ambassador to visiting Chinese engineers and businessmen, and I do some translation and interpretation work. So it's not, my job has nothing to do on paper with foreign language, but it helps a lot.
I would say my job is similar. I'm a software engineer, but I have my German skill and I get to speak with German clients and go on business trips to Germany. So it's a good skill to have and brings up new opportunities you wouldn't have otherwise.
What do you say to people who say, well, everybody speaks English in Germany?
Not true.
Yeah, so it's
some people speak German in other countries. I found that out in France.
Yeah. I've always found the Germans don't speak English as well as they think they do. Any other?
I think when you have just that year or two of experience, it's really about pairing it with another interest or another skill that you have, and then using it as the language part of it as kind of a bonus so that you can sort of sell to the employer, use that as leverage. So yeah, I think it's about really combining it with something else that you've got to get your foot in the door, and then figuring out another way that you can use it or kind of market that to an employer, something that makes you unique or different from the other candidates.
And I would kind of add to it, I'm in the same boat kind of as Nick. I got a job, I had a job in sales as a sales coordinator. And I have no background as that, but they kind of just brought me on board because they see that you are willing to learn new things and move around, and that's attractive to companies, and they want to find a spot for you if you're willing to learn new things. And I think that's just as important as whether or not you use the language you studied. In my case, I kind of did what Nick did. I didn't use Chinese, but when Chinese people would come, that's like, there are not a lot of people around who can do that, so they come to you for these sorts of things. You fill in like kind of as needed.
So how about the best way to present your experiences, you know, in sort of on CVs and resumes, and do you have experience with this? Anybody?
I would say even if you're working with a company that, say, doesn't do business with the language that you've learned, I think it's still an advantage to say, well, it helps me work with anyone that's from a different culture. It gives you that perspective to kind of work in an international environment, as so many companies are that do business across Europe, Asia, Brazil. I mean, it's really, a lot of companies are so global. Even having just one language, I think is very beneficial.
The best way I found to actually put it down in writing is to use a specific event that you've used it with. Instead of saying, I have a minor, or I am this level capable, or I've taken this test, or to say, I think it means a lot more to employers if you say, I specifically helped with this event at work where we did this, or I specifically went to this place. I think it gives them a better feel for, are you using it, rather than do you have a high-level knowledge of it.
I would agree with that. I think I had the same problem. I didn't know how to put it on my resume when I was looking for work, and I wish I'd done that.
Examples are always really good. And I think another thing is thinking about where you put it on the document. So if it is something that's really a selling point for you, or something that the employer is looking for, making sure it's really easy to find and it's not something that you're burying somewhere else on the resume, so that they're really going to have to search and hunt for it on that piece of paper.
At this point, any sort of extra questions? I mean, I have a few more that we'll kind of keep going on the list, but any questions or comments? And we'd like to make this very interactive. Yes?
Maybe just a quick follow-up there. So is it a good idea to put in your cover letter as well, or is it something that's just maybe more reserved from your resume?
I think if it's relevant, it's definitely something that you can highlight in the cover letter too. It's just, you always have to think about, you only have so much space, and so what is really important, but if you think it is something that, again, it's going to make you unique, or something that they're definitely looking for, make sure you have it in that cover letter too, if that's something you want them to really know that you possess.
Wherever you had your language and cultural skills put on your letters or resumes, when you actually got to the interviews for the jobs that you have, did they ask you about it?
No, surprisingly. I was actually kind of taken back by how little they checked out what I had put on my resume, but I mean, but that's kind of on you. If you're lying about something, it's going to come back, and people can find out in a real big hurry whether or not you can do what you can say, especially with the foreign language. So.
I would say in my case it did, because it's my 6th year here. Someone asked me, why did it take you 6 years to graduate? And I'd tell them about the time I spent with foreign languages and in Germany. That kind of justified it.
When I interviewed with Dan Foss, you interview with a lot of different engineering managers, and pretty much all of them saw that German was on my resume. They were pretty excited about that, because we do a lot of business with not just other German companies of sourcing parts, but there's also, we have another plant in Germany that makes a lot of the same products, so there's an engineering team as well, and there's a lot of communication back and forth, and that was very helpful.
brought in the other white guy in the company that could speak Chinese and had him try to test me out.
How did that go?
I beat him.
Dog eat dog world, yeah.
How many of you have a LinkedIn account? So four. Because me as a hirer, rarely do I even look at a resume anymore. Actually check you out way before by somebody telling me about you. And so that's where I learned quickly about your skills, what we call real life skills, you know. And so we do obviously have to collect resumes, but and I know it's a little bit I'm from Generation X. You guys are kind of millennial Generation Y. But LinkedIn is still cool among my generation still, and we count it pretty hard within our networks to try to determine, hey, is this person legit, valuable, and can they do what they say they're going to do? Because to your point, on paper, you can get a lot of things out there, but we, even in Generation X, we do use the web quite a bit to background check those folks that we're going to bring on as contract staff or full-time employees like TEs.
If I could add to that, I would just say that like your social media presence, people do take note of that. It's such easy information that at one of the interviews I went to, like before they even asked me a question, the guy had commented on my profile picture, and I was kind of taken aback by that. So.
Yeah, and watch out for Instagram. It's the first thing we look at because that'll tell us the story of your life in pictures.